Hi. Hello.
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 Hello and welcome to Architecting.
For the last hour of the day, we're going to focus on the Architect and Firm Award winners. Please welcome to the stage Steve Scribner, Maura Trumble, Ken Andrews, Linnaea Stuart, and Adam Wagoner.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
All right. So, Steve, we're going to start with you. If you could please do a small introduction, 15 minutes or less.
Let's try to keep it under the 45. I'm Steve Scribner, partner at Shape Architecture. We're a mighty firm 8 in Cap Hill. We're catty corner from Trader Joe's, which is important. I'm originally a Mainer. Grew up in an 1840s farmhouse, connected to a nice, wooded lot, 20 acres, farm garden. My parents still grow 3/4 of what they eat, vegetables they eat. And I think that is part of who I am in terms of the value of that connection. I've never seen a house that's as connected to the land I grew up in, and that's always what we all try to do. But I ended up in AIA Colorado in 2002. And working in Telluride on custom high-end residential through a very long, winding story. Ended up back at Colorado after credit school in 2018 and joined my partner Morgan at Shape Architecture. I was a physics major in undergrad. I discovered Passive House in grad school against my will. It's very annoying to me, but once I took the blue pill, I could go back. And then when I met Morgan, he and I do as him through his wife, and he and I have very aligned values around sort of building science and sustainability. So we joined up and had it made shape what it is today.
Great, congratulations. Awesome. All right.
Bo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maura Trumble. I'm a partner with CCY Architects in Basalt, Colorado. Originally from the panhandle of Nebraska. For those of you that don't know, Nebraska has a panhandle. I grew up 16 miles outside of the closest town on the corner of the circle. So with a deep appreciation for the Jeffersonian grid early on, and that kind of upbringing in the landscape, I would say, is still a big part of why I do what I do. Went to school at University of Nebraska and spent time coming out to the western slip of Colorado when I was little. My grandpa lived in Hotchkiss. The mountains were an escape for us. So when I got out of school, I knew I was going to be in Colorado. I was almost positive I was going to be on the Front Range, and I found CCY. They were winning design awards in 2011, and I wanted to work for somebody who was doing incredible work, and it was much to my surprise and grace that it turns out you can do world-class design and live in a small mountain town. So moved out in 2012, didn't look back, found a good home, and have been with the firm ever since. Been on the leadership team since 2017 and a partner with the firm for the last 2 years.
All right. How large is CCY these days?
We're 43.
Okay.
Yeah, all in Basalt.
Amazing. Awesome. All right, Kens.
Oh, let's see. My name's Ken Andrews, obviously. I guess that's just goes without saying. I'm originally born and raised here in Colorado. I'm one of those few originals. I guess I'm not going to use the word native because I don't like that, but I'm an original Coloradan. I was born in Denver, and then when I was about 4 years old, my father moved us to where we owned the town Sapanero on Blue Mesa Reservoir, and that was a town for us. And we ran a business up there, and then because it was so hard, I kind of grew up living all over the western slope from Durango, Cortez, Montrose, Gunnison, longtime Gunnison, and ultimately landed in Montrose where I went to high school. And I guess I can say that's where I hailed from. Came to CU right along the same time with Sarah, went off to Rice, and then came back and joined Arc 11, which is the firm that I then have for the last 21 years. I've been a partner, I've been a principal for 14 years, and I've been a partner now for just over 5 years. I'm a second generation in the firm as we're working through. I also spent 12 years teaching at the University of Colorado, so with a lot of friendly faces here that I haven't seen in a long time. since I resigned about 10 years ago, but it's amazing to see so many of you out here that are now leaders and partners and principals in your other firms and with other firms. So it's really inspiring to come here and see all the eyes again.
Laurie?
I'm Linnaea Stuart, and I am the other half of the second generation of Mark 11. And can you hear?
I can't.
Okay, great. Let's see. I grew up as one of 3 Asian kids in a small town in New Hampshire. And then I went to Syracuse University for school, got a bachelor's of architecture degree there, and then I went to the GSD for 2 years later to get in that mark. And I found my way to Colorado about 10 years ago. I was sitting in a barber shop and I was looking through a magazine when I saw a photo from Mark 11. And I said, I want to work there. So I wrote a letter to each saying, can I work for you? That at interviews. And then a couple circumstances occurred where I had to delay that for a couple of years. And then I ended up working at Mark 11 about 8 years ago. Been a principal for about 2 years now.
All right, Anna.
Cool. Adam Wagoner. Let's see. I grew up in the middle of Kansas, and I'm lucky enough to be married to the 2023 Young Architect of the Year, Michael Wagoner. And we met at Kent State and moved around the world to the Netherlands and to New England and Mexico, and then came here about 8 years ago. And I am on the 4th generation of my firm, my old firm. So that my newest firm is called Kyla Buffalo. We've been around for about a year, and it's one person. And I run the architecting podcast and teach at CU Denver. That covered? Let's get on to the.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being winners. Congratulations again. We've had some really great conversations coming into today, so we're going to continue that while we're up trail together. Some of the things we've been talking about, being an architect today and being a leader today has never been more needed. We mentioned the AIA national study. With clients last year, identified that clients are looking for architects to provide 3 things. They want communication, they want coordination, and they want fiduciary and schedule stewardship. This all coupled with creating excellent design, which most of us got with the profession to do, and keeping up with a rapid pace. So when we get all this right, we have created trust. So I'd like you all to address how you create trust, either in the position that you are in as partners and leaders with clients, and what is trust looking like for you these days?
Jump in it. Well, I think, again, we've chatted a little bit coming into this. One topic that's really come up is the idea of deeply listening. And that's to your clients, it's to your collaborators, it's to the people on your team. And I think that really comes from, as Linnaea, you really brought this to the table, is, the conversation around empathy in the profession and how being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes is kind of the vehicle to create that trust. And that happens in every direction.
Yeah, I think it was talking about how to create the great balance of structure and empathy within that. Also pockets of creativity, inspiration, stirring conversations when needed, but also, finding ways to uplift everybody at the same time. It's always a balance on figuring out myself as a leader, which is a different position than when I was just part of the staff. I'm learning that now. So.
Yeah, I think for me, it's always been about 3 things: transparency, accountability, and openness. Being honest. Honesty, transparency, and accountability, I would say, are the 3 most important things for me. And I think my reputation, as everybody knows, that I'm honest and forthright, and I'll tell you what's on my mind, whether it's good or bad. But if I also come to an agreement, I'm accountable about it. And that's, I think, what's really gotten me a long ways throughout my entire career.
Yeah, as a newer firm, it's all we have, right? Have to give nothing but a reputation. We have a few projects now, but I think a two-way street of education is really important. So when we engage clients early in our design decision-making process and educate around some of the performative aspects that we may be experts in, but also open up that two-way pathway to learn from our clients, because they know more than we do, admit it, about what they want, who they are, and what they need. That does seem to be effective so far in terms of when we get into those difficult situations around budget or time, whatever it is, when clients, all of their expectations can't be met, if they feel like they have been heard and understand why we got where we got. But so far, seems to be just that full communication breaks down those sort of conflict that could occur.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like you're in a little weird position here, like where we've been talking about leadership and like what it means to be a leader in your firm, and it's like I try to lead my own self well. I'm not so it's like I feel like it's a little different for me, and I'm not.
You're leading students.
Sort of, yeah, but I feel like I'm not even all that interested in the idea of leadership. I mean, especially as like growing the firm, my therapist is and I have tried to figure out the word for it, but kind of like I'm trying to be like a maverick architect where I get to kind of float around and jump into different things. And I think for me, like the idea of like a standard practice, I'm less interested in that and less pursuing sort of like what leadership is there. What I am passionate about, I guess, is setting up platforms for people, and so I think that's what like the podcast was for me. Was there's amazing designers in here that don't necessarily get stories told, and so it was setting up a platform to tell those stories. We've restarted the Denver Architecture League in Denver, and bringing people together, and so I guess I'm sort of more interested in creating platforms for other leaders to come up and to sort of do that, and trying to keep, I guess like you were talking about trust, trying to keep those platforms pure where they don't sort of get corrupted by like sponsorship or money or things like that, where the pureness of it goes away to kind of dilute that trust or dilute the stories of other people.
But what you've been able to accomplish through leadership, of getting us all together to reignite the architecture league and the architecting and things like that, is definitely a very strong level of leadership and the initiative that took to do that.
Yeah, thanks. But I don't like to, like, if you're going to say, like, hey, what's the topic for the Denver Architecture League next month? I'm like, I don't want to know about that. Like, it's more like, I'll set the platform and then let other people kind of talk about what important in architecture right now or whatever. So.
Exactly.
How's that about a later portion?
That was great. You spoke about this the other day. It's what we're all finding is the need for us to be leading so many spokes of a project. So these days, and I find myself as the main communicator for the contractor with the client when it comes to sticky subjects. Like you're just the breadth that we're doing, right? And plus. Run it firms is a lot. So where do you drive your inspiration? Obviously, getting either colleagues, creating a platform for conversation. What other areas are you guys? How do you do it?
Well, this.
Yeah.
It's always a big source.
Yeah.
Those
Speaking like each other. Cam, do you smoke a lot over the years?
So I've heard a thing from my uncle where he had learned that I'd become a principal 2 years prior. And he said, when I was a leader, there were 4 kind of traits that a good leader offers, which is basically being a finder, a binder, a grinder, or a minder. And if you can be all 4 of these, then you're the all-star. I am not all 4 of these. I think I'm about 3. And I'm working on the other one. But to recognize that in yourself and to know like which strengths you have in leadership, which ones you need to work on, I think being very real and honest. And, somebody also told me the best and hardest question to ask your colleagues is to say, how do you experience me? Because once somebody is honest and feels comfortable to tell you that, then you can learn it, grow, and change. And that you can also become a better leader, and you can gain trust with not only your colleagues, but also your clients, your consultants, everybody around you. If you can be as honest and open about yourself in that kind of realm.
So the question was, what inspires you to be a leader?
Yeah, where do you lean on it? Yeah, Frex where it's tough, right?
Well, I guess my whole life I've always tried to be influential in some way, whether that's a good aspiration or not. And what I've learned, and somebody told me this a long time ago, is you have to do that through quiet confidence. And I've wrangled with that a lot because I recognize, and I know through my therapist, that I definitely have an ego and I have an ability to be abrasive and I have an ability to be assertive. But when I reflect on the quiet confidence, I think that's where I have striven the most in my career, especially when it comes to working with clients and students and with peers, in that, having to recognize that, yes, it's good to be confident. It's good to know what you're doing. It's good to strive to have influence, because I think, as architects, we're here to shape and change. And I fundamentally believe in the idea of progressive architecture and progressive design and what we can do as we lead. And therefore, that is influence. And I think, if you do that in a really abrasive fashion, it works for some people. I found for myself, when I've done it in abrasive fashion, it's backfiring. But when I can do it with that quiet confidence, I've always been very successful.
Yeah. I was going to say, I find inspiration in a lot of the same places everybody does, but in terms of inspiration around leadership, it's like, I never wanted to have my own practice, and I don't think Morgan did either. The real founder of our club, Shay, my partner, and we both just, I think, found our passion, and it is sort of this nexus of contemporary site-specific architecture and building science, and trying to make that cool. And so just really applying our passion to what we believe in, I think, really deeply, like fundamentally. We've found people in our office are pretty psyched because they share that, and if they don't, they didn't come try to apply to work for us. We've had people leave over the years, and I think that our core values, we wear them on our sleeves, and that motivates us. And then, on the leadership side, we have lots of things to work on, and we know it. But we read books and podcasts, whatever. But it's more in service to what we set out to do, which is not the leaders of a firm. It's to do this kind of architecture we really believe in. And I think always in life, only do what we care about, not for acknowledgement or the sake of leadership or whatever. It helps us get farther.
Sure. Yeah. Most interesting, you've had a different trajectory. You're fifth generation. Yeah, at a firm, very established. Yes. I would talk about that journey. Something you do.
I think I really never wanted to have my own firm. I didn't have that. I have to do this really ego-based kind of I really want to go out and start my own thing. So I've always been interested in the idea of finding something that is wonderful and continuing to build on that. I think what we do is such an iterative process, and that's how we treat design, that's how we treat process, and why wouldn't I treat my career in the same way? And in kind of how do you take something that exists that has a 50-plus year history and start to build on that? And for me, from a leadership standpoint, that's really understanding the core values and the history and kind of the weight of that in a really good way. And then looking forward of what does that mean for the next 50 years? What does that mean for the sixth and seventh generation of leadership to come after me? And it's been a really interesting transition to, join as a staff person, kind of force my way up, become part of the leadership team, and kind of see the evolution of the firm in the last 12 years while I've been there. And, one thing we talked about is a really tangible version of that for us right now is this focus of trying to build the community-based work that we do and really invest in the small towns and communities that we work in. And I'm really proud that we are doing that. We're actively doing that. We're working with several nonprofits in lots of different communities on workforce housing projects to kind of continue to grow and evolve the body of work that we do and how we approach the profession. And for me, that's been a very rewarding part of kind of this transition into leadership, is that ability to see impact and voice and agency within the firm. And I think that comes from your first question, how do you build trust? And that starts, as a young person in a firm, and the confidence to voice your opinion and do it in a way that is respectful but honest and frankly passionate. And to find that passion in something that already exists.
Well, speaking, we're going to your partners last week, Rich, you were talking about push-pull, what needs to happen, right? When there needs to be a balance of push-pull when you're getting into a leadership position within a firm where it's not too much pushing or pulling, and is that nice balance. That's where you recognize who the leaders are from within. Amazing work, amazing foundations up here on stage. It all, we have to have work, right? We have to have clients. Been having some interesting conversation with you guys about how business develop. When you're a founder, often business develop off your relationships. Adam, you and Steve are founders, and there might be a little bit of that going on. As second, fifth generation, what's the strategy around business development? Because part of being a partner is there's an obligation to be bringing it work. So will you guys talk a little bit about strategies around that, or maybe your lead in learning to get better at that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, maybe part of that, like, maverick architect or whatever it is, but like or just being a typical aspirational architect, I wasn't all that interested in the business side of it, even when I had my firm for 7-8 years, and just sort of able to get by with things. And I think within the last 6 months, I've finally buckled down and created and made the marketing part into a design problem, and went out and hired a marketing team and have made this really intense system for how things work, and really leveraging technology in different ways. And it hasn't been totally rolled out yet, but even we just put out a first. I spent all this time on myself. It's I can do it myself. I can figure this all out. And I put out an ad 9 months ago, and just got crickets, right? I spent so much time making this perfect video, nothing happened. And so I hired this marketing firm, and it's been really great in how they've been structuring it from a holistic idea of communicating value, of setting up systems, of even just how you communicate with clients, pitch to clients. And so it's been a good growth period. And we just put out an ad, I think the day ago, and I've already got 2 meetings set up for it, right? So it's shown me the value of experts, and it's always hard as a sole practitioner to know sort of when to pay for people and when to do things yourself. In this case, it seems like it's paying up to hire somebody, but yeah, it's been a nice experiment of just hey, let's treat this a little more real. I guess I need to eat. Yeah.
So what I did pass. For me, I had EJ Mead, who is our founding partner and principal, who is not here with us today. He was an amazing mentor all along. He was one of my professors while I was a student at CU a long time ago. And he's been an amazing mentor about business development. And EJ, those of you that know him will recognize that he's very much a mentor, he's very much a mentor, but he's also very much a connector and a maven. As you're familiar with the book Tipping Point, and it talks about that. So, in his circles, in his community, he is amazing at making connections. If he was here, I'm sure he could connect you guys all to New Jersey somehow. It's that, and those are hard shoes to follow. We've talked a lot about this, and it's not, you can't, if you're a second generation, you're not following that person. You got to find it on your own, and you got to do it on your own, and you got to figure it out. And I think, much like I didn't really want to start something from scratch. So 7 years in at Arc 11, EJ and James came to me and asked me what I wanted to do. It was sort of a no-brainer that I wanted to take, at that time, was 17-year-old practice and take it forward. And so now I'm finding, Linnaea and I talk a lot about this, of finding our own legs and how we do business development. And what are the projects that we're interested in? and there's a lot of commonality to it, but there's also a lot of differences in positioning and so forth. And one of the greatest things that we did is we hired a business and strategy director, marketing director also, but she comes with a background in strategy. And for the last 18 months, she's been an amazing catalyst to help us really think about, especially for the second generation principals, how are we going to go about that? And she's key to our team on how we decide what we're going to go after, how we're going to go after things. So, yeah, it's very different. But we also talked about for the younger ones and the younger people in the room. You can't emulate somebody because they're not you. You have to be yourself.
Okay, that's where I was. Yeah, I was going to say the first thing you need to know is know yourself, know who you are, know what you want in terms of work. And I think that'll be the first step of going in the right direction, because I remember when I was offered a position to be a principal, I said, well, I'm not very good at this. And then you said, it's okay, you'll work on it. And I did. I remember the first year I worked on it, I pretty much did everything that was, signed up for everything. Big fat failure. And then the second year, lessons learned, I was like, all right, I'm going to find the things that I'm actually passionate about, that I care about, and then build a relationship through that. And I also know my capacity as an introvert. I can only do like 3 or 4 business development, relationship building things really well, and I'm going to dive into that. So that's what I've done. I've worked with a group called the Amachi Alliance, they have basically founded the National Parks Association for the Japanese internment camp in southeast Colorado, building a relationship there. I built a relationship with actually one of the church organization about this in affordable housing, and working with that group has been very interesting. I find the pockets that are interesting. I dive very deeply into it. I let people know that I am all in, and I think that also builds trust. It also builds the opportunity for projects in the future. And also, understanding your worth and saying, by the way, you do need to pay me for this work act of love.
I would add, completely agree, it's about finding your own voice. I would say for those folks in the firm that are looking to grow that next generation, put them in the room to hear you talk about your work and your firm. And yes, they are going to talk about it differently, but until they get comfortable developing that voice, you kind of have to infill that. You have to make a space for them to understand how you interview, how you present to different types of clients, and do that in a meaningful way. That was something that was done for me early on and really gave me the confidence to, have the elevator pitch or the 3-minute, what do you do and why do you do it? And I think that is really critical for younger people coming into that business development role. And I had the benefit of, again, that long history and that reputation where I didn't have to, rely solely on the bits from the story, and incredibly impressed with what you guys are doing along those lines. But that's maybe been, it's a little 101, but for me, something that made a tremendous amount of difference in having that confidence to find the things that I was passionate about and really dive in and be able to talk about the work in the firm and what I wanted to do.
It's great to be complimented for something I feel like a total imposter. We've been really lucky. We've, worked really hard in the early days to make it our little niche. I think for us, it's really about the collaborators outside of architects that are not just trying to find clients, but builders mostly. But we're very lucky we have our little niche, and we're such nerds that you like to talk to other nerds about building science, and has kind of obviously but I don't know how to coach it work.
But it's a little bit now. Hey, that it also seems like you guys had your personalities, right, and you've hired well
to have people to put your work out better for you, right? Thank you. Yeah. Yes, it's true. No, that's really true. We have very, very lucky with who we have on our team that can speak and take pictures and submit for awards.
Do you outsource all that?
No, we're incredible, amazing team. We hired a few of the people we hired not because they were marketing anybody, but just because they're savvy, really smart. A lot of our staff is a professional photographer, and everybody, like, I feel like our team right now is very all in on the mission, and people just jump in and be like, oh, somebody was working on an award submission right now without any guidance, and she's gonna nail it. And it's not and I think it really is about just getting the mission in turn. But yeah, we've been lucky, and okay, but we try not to mess it up.
Just touch on our small point about skill set too. If you can be multifaceted and tenacious, and a go-getter, and have a leader that provides you the agency to do so, you're in a sweet spot right there.
Yeah. Well, I think let's say, this one, I think you touched a little bit on this, but I think, like I said, I would talk to a lot of the other people here. If I talked to a lot of my peers, there was a lot of transition going on in the architecture world. A lot of firms that we went through transition. We had a great conversations profession on this. One of the things that came out is this, those of you that started your own practice clearly had the entrepreneurial spirit from day one. And so you recognize something in you that was about business and being able to start a business and do something with a business as well as do the core functions of design. Your second generation people may not have that. They may be coming in where they were incredibly good designers and they were incredibly good producers and thinkers and doing all the stuff that helped you get to do all your work. And now they're at a point where they're asking themselves in their lives, what am I going to do, as part of this transition? And they're now leaning into a different aspect of entrepreneurialism that wasn't part of their basis of how they started their career. So it is kind of an interesting position where you have to start to learn all of those kinds of things where, took 10, 15 years in, you might know how to do everything about running the business. But how do you work? And if you can't get work, there's no longevity. And I think that's something that I think about constantly. In fact, if anything, mid-career for me now, having just turned 50, that's probably the thing that I obsess about more than anything. I have all the quiet confidence of the world to do the work. It's getting the work now. It does the next step. So
There's a lot of good talent out there, right? There's a lot of competition.
There's a lot of competition. Yeah. Which is amazing. Going back to my students, I love seeing the rising tide in Colorado, having the competition and seeing all the awards being given to other people. And it's fantastic.
But, I think it is interesting, I had the pleasure of interviewing EJ before and hearing the story of the early firm, how hard it was for him to get work and, and beating his head against, walls and trying to do the work you guys do. And so it's it's still the same firm and it's transitioning out. It's still that same period of of that entrepreneurship, right?
I just want to be clear, EJ's allowed to go on any of my rights.
Does he see Jones law?
What'd you say?
EJ might go anywhere right now. I just wanted to put that up.
How do you know he's about Portugal?
That's different. That's part of the new world of being able to work globally. All right. So.
Well, obviously we talked a lot about teamwork, right? And so you get the work, you're leading the team. Now let's talk about mentoring. You were talking a lot about this, and certainly yesterday Randy at the Tech Connect spoke a lot about this, right? The Gen Z generation, and this is not a generational talk today, but it's really about communication and what is the future of mentoring when we are less face-to-face, when we have newer generations that are more comfortable really in a chat, text with each other even though they're sitting in the same room. And also with a drastic decrease in the amount of people going to architecture school. By 2030, there's going to be 13% less students go to school. And we're already competing. There's 6,000 architecture students graduating every year that we're all competing nationally to be hiring when only half of them are really going into traditional architecture firms. So it's time to change our mentorship and how we do it. We've had some kind of interesting conversations about that. What are you all thinking? What are you talking about with your firms? What are you talking about with yourself? It's imperative that we mentor the next generation and continue to rise the tide. So how do we do this?
We talked about this as a group before, but regardless of generational tendencies, we're in a practice that you basically enter into a position where you're working in more, and I noted this before, in more of a heads down kind of focus, get the work done, research, do good work. And when you move into leadership, you're now in a heads up position. You're looking up, you're looking around, you're trying to figure out how to lead others, how to, get work, how to do all these things, that's kind of less heads down. So that transition between heads down to heads up is going to always happen in this type of practice, I believe. And I think it's us leaders' responsibility to guide that and mentor that into the right direction so that those leaders will rise.
And I, again, not a generational talk, but I think a huge piece of that we've seen is it's no longer, teaching as many of the technical skills, it's teaching soft skills. It's teaching the idea that, we're experts in nothing and pretty well versed in everything, and that's true for our entire career. And that is a really hard skill to communicate to young people. Like, it's okay that you don't know, but this is how you say you don't know in a productive way, and this is how you go and find answers. And I think that transition from heads down to heads up, we could do a better job mentoring kind of that mentality at every level. So, going from, a draft person to more like a job captain role where you do have some responsibilities. Like, how do we start coaching that heads up mentality earlier and not waiting until somebody's a really great project manager and a really good heads down person and kind of all over it. And then all of a sudden they're in charge of people and clients and communication, and they don't feel comfortable or confident doing those things and don't know how to kind of be the leader that they're all of a sudden expected to be.
Yeah, I think for us, there's 8 of us, and so Morgan and I are kind of like the mentor that was to everybody in the office in that spot. And it's kind of easy because we're working really, really closely, and we have weekly happy hour, quarterly, check-ins and retreats where we actually all together kind of talk about how to make the firm a more functional place. And I think that really does. We all mentor each other in that way. Everybody does have different strengths to bring to that conversation and feel straight out of class.
Be kind. We talked earlier. People need to be drawing details, getting us know.
People do need to be drawing details too. And
I take care of that.
We're trying to mentor the detail drawing too. And I think the challenge for us is we can kind of still do that now, and we definitely have great people that have really developed those skills very well. But we need to be able to mentor people, and that's really kind of. I think about structure, systems.
And there's a sticking point. It's a challenge right now.
I don't know.
The heads down, heads up, that's a huge challenge.
I think, mentorship scores the 3 principles on writing notes twice, I'll talk here about texting. That's good. Very next book up. So, the first is by example, right? I mean, when I was a young architect coming off, looked at architects, I came to things like this, I learned what people were doing, I asked questions, I had conversation through examples. The second is through collaboration, through working with people that are better than me, people that are younger than me. I mean, one of the things I love most about teachings was that I got to have 16 different ideas thrown at me every day as I was in studio. And it was my job to help them sort out what they were going to do with those ideas and where they were going to go. I had my own problems, design problems that I was dealing with, my own practice, but those were great opportunities for collaboration. I think the piece that's going to die and that's missing with all of the remote work and the new technologies is the mentorship through osmosis, right? Just the fact that you're in a room and somebody's doing something over here and you're learning from that, you're seeing it, especially when this is something we talk about, having this one firm in the mirror. It's our culture is a constant top of mind for what we're doing for our culture, good, bad, ugly, and I think we're doing a really great job. We're doing the good stuff. But how the hardest thing for me right now in the post-COVID world is just that sort of the relationship of, hey, can you look at this for a second? Or overhearing Linnaea having a conversation with somebody about something that I learned from that and they learned from me. I mean, it's just that osmosis is, I don't know, I think it's imperative. And I don't know how to recreate that in the world of Teams and Google and chat and all that.
Yeah. That's where being category just really comes in. Everybody likes to work in the office. It's a really great environment. We got a park on Saturday. It's true. The people, and it's been interesting because we it was Morgan and I, and we hired people that were kind of all at the same level that could do lots of things. And in the last couple of years, we hired a couple of younger people so that it didn't become a hierarchy per se, but all of a sudden there was a lot more ask your peer And then that's really opened up. Right now, the culture is amazing. We're people asking each other, like, not necessarily, we'll see two people, be like, all right, that's cool. Not like set up by the Fritz Bowls or So yes, we will have to be face to face.
And one of our challenges, we had 2 studios, one in Denver, one in
Do they have to, though? I mean, I question that notion because I'm definitely a face-to-face person. And then I get challenged by not even people in our profession, by clients that, work in tech. Are like, that's so old school, and get over it yourself. Like, figure out how to do this. Like, there's a way to do it, right?
And I think that
Have to might not be the word, but there's value add.
Yeah, there is. It's like for my third firm, I had partner in Connecticut, and we were friends before that, and we started it during COVID, and it worked pretty well. Like, we didn't know anything different, right? And I'd say we were making good work. Things were going well, but the thing that always happens is that we'd always have to schedule calls with each other, and so we never have just like, hey, let's get a beer or something and sit down and just not talk about anything. And so I think that the frustrations and tensions that we had built up, and I think there's this thing of like, it takes like 10 good things to overdo one bad conversation you had. And so I think that there was always this kind of friction that started to build up, and I think that the sort of organicness of those relationships was difficult. If we
lack of it part to the spontaneity of interaction, and I think that's on a personal level. And again, back to soft skills. So that's how you learn soft skills, is actually interacting with other humans in real life. And then I think the spontaneity of learning, of being able to be like, is this cool or is this weird? And that is not something you can do over Zoom. At least I haven't seen it done successfully over Zoom.
I think the studio culture of the universities has also been damaged because, right or wrong, all-nighters in studio with your peers, the fun, the hijinks, all that kind of fun built camaraderie and built collaboration. And when I was teaching, Denver is a commuter campus, but I would try to really get everybody to spend studio time, like not take your project home, work on a studio, be there with your friends, be part of the hijinks. Of course, everything started becoming more and more digital, so then it was on the computer, and then with COVID, everything became remote. And for those of you that were teaching during that period, kudos to you. I don't know how you did it, but it's the same. That's now reinforced this culture of remoteness in our profession. And I still think that that's a real problem. But, I've talked to a lot of peers that are now all 100% back in the office, which that's great. I think I'm supportive of that. I don't think if you work for us, that in some ways, as much as I would like to try it, I just think maybe just got those people years to be Holly. But so I don't know. And I'd love to talk to all of you afterwards. Like, what are you doing in your offices? How are you dealing with them? How are you dealing with the culture? How are you dealing with mentoring? It is one of those things that we've learned that, and I've talked to a lot of people at the KLA and a while and everywhere else, where it's those of us that are seniors, we can work in our basements or wherever, no problem. It's the young generation. So those of you that are emerging professionals here, it's not to punish you to be in the studio, it's to be there to learn and collaborate and be mentored and be part of the culture and get all those things that you may not have gotten in school because you did go to school during COVID. And so you were doing everything remotely, and you're missing, I firmly think you're missing out on something. So,
where's
my soapbox?
We're kind of finding people that want to be at the office. Yeah, at least they tend to. But I don't think there's a human being that doesn't want some kind of connection, and so it's super fun to be there.
Yeah, but at the same time, you've lost any of the introvert. How do you feel about this? Well, I would say, at the same time, we've lost some really good people because, they wanted more flexibility in their work environment. So it was
over my heights.
Yeah. Yesterday we were to this AI thing when they were showing the thing about the
proximity, work proximity.
Yeah, the work proximity when they were in the ID presentation with the proximity of why was this huge group in the building, because they were forced to be in the building, but they were separate from each other, versus the people that were sort of all overlapped. And I think this is something that we have noticed, is that everything from concept to schematic design, those really intense collaboration opportunities, those create, everybody wants to be in the studio for that.
when it comes time to be heads down, doing the construction details, the drawings, all that kind of stuff, people want the focus. And one of our studios is very much a collaborative environment, it's a co-officing environment with a lot of noise and background that can be distracting. And our other studio is very small, a 20 computer, and it can be distracting. So with those really high focus times, people like being away. But I think for the younger generation, that's the hard part, is because that's where the osmosis comes in. And you're sitting there doing a waterproofing detail, really technical stuff that requires 10 or 15 years plus experience to really understand it and have been through the problem a million times. That's where you want to be able to turn around and say, hey, would you look at this sketch for me for a second? And there's no amount of getting onto Teams and trying to struggle through those sort of bad sketching that we do on Teams and the finger pointing and the lining that's ever going to replace the in this embody when you're very successful with is the paper. You're just sitting out sketching through.
At the end of the day, there is a life stage component to what we do, and there is a bit of risk in our part. So it has to. We were talking earlier. I think clients expect there to be a high level of experience on their projects. And so, carving that out and making sure that happens, it takes a lot of rigor and a lot of discipline, to make sure that a schedule and a fee can accommodate that.
Great. Yeah, I think I want to take the mentorship question a little bit differently, and I was just able to do an interview with Evelyn Lee a few hours ago, and looking forward to her talk tomorrow, but thinking about her career trajectory, where it's something that's very, very different and goes off in a different way. And I think my career was a lot of the same way. Like Rebecca and I started our firm our first firm when we were 23, and we were hiring some architects to meet us at Starbucks and redline our drawings once a week. But we got this restaurant built, right? And I think, going through, I've had 4 firms, I've worked for 8 other firms, and I just like to jump around to kind of sample different things. And I think I'm not directly mentoring anybody in the office, but I get, coffee with young architects or ex-students once a week. And I think that my big thing to them is just designing your career like you would a project, right? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go to a firm and learn waterproofing details if that's not what you want to do, right? And I think that there's a sort of, especially with the price of education right now, there's a knee-jerk reaction of, okay, I do this, and I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And it's a linear thing that then puts them into a profession 15 years down the road, not doing the thing they want to do. And I think that it's a bit like what I'm mentoring people. Since I had nobody in my firm, I could just throw bombs into the people that are working in your firms. That
Easy would be additive,
but kind of sure to craft these careers in different ways. But it is a little ridiculous in a lot of ways that I'm the architect of the year, because I'm a very not well-rounded architect, because I didn't sit with people and never really kind of skipped that interning phase in a lot of ways. But have been able to con my way this far. So
buy your hose.
It just shows that there are multiple paths, and so as leaders of firms, it's really, we talk a lot in our firm, right person, right seat, right, and really understanding that needs to be a two-way dialogue, right? You need that push pull. You need to be talking and going, okay, where are you right now? Your career and your trajectory. What do you want? What's giving you passion? So that you are lifting your head, taking off the blinders. We talk about that a lot. All right, we're going to go to a speed round of questions. And there's no right or wrong answer. Okay, so we're just going to go through. All right. Preferred communication method, Steve?
Email.
Phone?
Face-to-face.
Feast. Podcast interviews.
choose your adventure. All right. Favorite leadership podcast?
I don't listen to any.
You do not listen to any podcasts?
Some leadership ones? No, I like the...
You don't listen to Evelyn Lee? Come on, give her a plug. Practice Disrupted.
I listen to the Blocks podcast with Neil Brennan. comedians come in and talk about what the blocks are that holding them up, and I think that's
leadership.
yeah. For
I like Being Human by Steve Cuss, and I also like Getting Wise or Wiser with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She interviews ladies in their 70s.
Overweight, yeah. All right, someone write these down. I have to pay attention. Someone write these down. All right.
I don't listen to a lot of leadership podcasts, but what I do is usually somebody like Renee Rao.
it's like what?
Renee Rao.
Not a lot of leadership podcasts, a lot of Pod Side America, but books for me. And Brad Volcanator was a huge one, very informative.
I guess I have to say architecting because I've last done over and over. The culture goes into it like this. So
I listen to How I Built This all the time. That's one of my favorite podcasts. It's just so fun to get on a bike and listen to that. Listen to other entrepreneurs do their thing. Any other resources that you mentioned that are something that you rely on it, so you go back to?
Nan Anderson.
Dan Anderson.
We've talked a lot about in our offline discussions, coaching.
Everybody who has active leadership, who's working with a coach or a therapist, you're up here right now.
They're got hands.
Oh.
Hey, Doug. No, I think that people should talk about that more. We are a profession where we are taught and critical of absolutely everything except for how we interact with other people. And I think as architects are in more leadership roles, dealing with humans is super important, and everybody to use coaching, help, assistance. So I'm a huge fan for that.
Thanks. Yeah, about 6 years ago, I became addicted to the Harvard Institute. Just because it's got the snippets, it's got the deep dives, it's got what's my problem today, and I go to it. There's definitely an article or 24 articles. And then I also just really love all the little miniature publications that they read. So there was one on emotional intelligence with sort of 5 little books in it. I kind of carry them around as journals for a while, reading little bits and pieces here and there when I have times, or I think that's another huge piece for me.
Well, you did some active coaching a few years ago to do what? To learn empathy. I'm sorry. You did some active coaching to learn empathy. Oh, dude. Yeah. Good job. It's all right.
I'm doing a deep dive with an old professor of mine about a term called the missing 32% of women in leadership. And it is astounding, the data. I mean, the basic data-driven question is, if in the early 2000s, 50% women, 50% men graduated from school, why is there a 32% deficit of women in leadership now? And that is incredibly exciting and depressing at the same time.
Yeah. But I think for me, one reason I started the podcast was when I knew I was about to start my third firm, and it was really harvesting knowledge from these people. And I think that the thing that's shown me is just the willingness of people to share if you ask. And so, John and Sarah and Steve and Rich and EJ, it's because I've done this, I have this amazing network of people that I can easily call up and ask you questions. And it's I know you have a willingness to do that with a lot of people. And so I think for everybody, it's easy to think, oh, they're not going to answer an email or they're not going to do whatever. But reaching out to people, and yeah, they don't get back. But most of the time they do. And that's just been a big find for me of never being afraid of connecting with somebody.
Does that come easy for you?
What?
Does that come easy for you?
The hard beginning, or
I had a lot of rejection in the beginning, and that was hard. But then once you get over that fear of that rejection, it's okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it out. I think I forget it a lot, but you go back to. But I think the AIA has been helpful too. I mean, you did the Chris Kelly leadership. I did this 2018, did a business of architecture seminar series. That's where I've been in. And through that, I don't really remember what I learned, but I do have lunch with, a group of 4
recurringly at lunch with Linnaea. The peer network is huge. So huge. Yeah.
It's huge. And I think that we're so lucky to have a conference in this more informal environment where we can really foster those relationships.
I'm lucky to work at like 10 firms also, like you. So there's somebody in between mine and Morgan's past firms. We do reach out to those principals and people working there. It's got some rates out. And it's great when it's from different types of firms in different regions as well. There's like competitor-friend relationships, like we are that to each other, and having like totally outside of that sphere is good as well. It's got both.
Absolutely.
Best of you with your friends. Yeah, I thought you were giving me good advice, Steve.
Don't get that certified.
All right, let's do guilty pleasure. What do you do to relax? What's a guilty pleasure?
Ultimate.
What do you watch, Shake? Ultimate Frisbee, really?
Like, you get started, you just forget everything. That's guilty? Or like dorky. Kind of embarrassing.
Fantasy with doubles, 100%.
Really? Oh, yeah. I love that. Music.
For me, the last 2 years, every weekend has been pretty consumed with home renovation projects because I have a 112-year-old house. Hangs a lot of attention, ironically. And so I found that while it may not be the most enjoyable work, I really enjoy it. The podcast is marvelous.
Yeah.
It's just, I've gone through every episode. It's kind of ridiculous, but it brings me a lot of smile. And it's great to just hear celebrities, presidents, everybody be interviewed by three best friends, and the ridiculous stories that they get into, but also their leadership, how they got this. Inspiring to hear all these celebrities that are at the top of their game, how they start. Some of them started with nothing, how they got there. It sheds a lot of light.
I've been having crazy dreams, watching way too much of the series Slow Horses. It's addictive.
Yeah, we're going real guilty pleasure. I think there's this game on my phone called Zuba that I downloaded for my 8-year-old son. And I pretty much, between these sort of like hard meeting or task, I like play it for like 3 minutes and just hope nobody's watching me.
Sounds like it's a good pivot for you.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Anything else to add in front of this group of colleagues while you have the limelight?
Thank you. I can just say thank you to the AIA for the honor award this year. We submitted and we were completely honored and surprised by it, which is always a great refreshing feat. I'd say that.
Ditto. Yeah.
Yeah, we're extremely grateful and humble, and thank you.
Well deserved. All right. Thanks.
You can visit architecting.com, that's architect-ing.com, to see images from this week's guest.
And please rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts.
Have a great week and keep connecting.
This podcast is powered by The Plug,